course, you have to work hard, but it's a lot about you need to be in the right place in the right time, and there is a huge element of luck in this road.
Uli Galos, thank you so much for joining me on 20 Minute Leaders.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
Of
Pleasure to
course.
be here.
First things first, there's a jungle behind you. Talk to me about this jungle.
Okay, so even before the corona, we had. I think that we're not living in a sustainable world, and I've been looking for ways to grow my own stuff in my backyard, to have a local, basically, almost being like an autark market. So grow my stuff.
Okay.
I've been vegan for a while, and I looked in the market for different solutions, and I found this home-based AI-driven farm. It has a place for 30 plants, and it's a subscription model where you get every month pods with seeds, and it has everything there: irrigation, lighting, camera that takes a picture of the plants, and basically it's done. There's an app, and it turns on the lights and tells you, hey, you need to fill water, you need to clean this, add some food. So, and I've been using it now, it's about 4 months.
Wow.
And we're eating every night from that small farm. It has, different kinds of lettuces and
Wow.
spices, oregano and dill and mint and all of that.
I love you.
So,
I love it. And just one of the most important aspects of it is it gives you a great virtual background, so you don't even have to do it.
Exactly. Instead of putting a picture or a virtual background, which my computer is too old, it doesn't allow me. I would have needed a green screen behind me. So this is the best backdrop for me.
Wonderful. Okay, Uli, such an impressive background. There's so much to talk about from your time as an entrepreneur to business development. You've held multiple CEO positions and co-founder positions, but then you've handled numerous VP biz dev and head of business positions. So I'd love to, give me a little bit of background about where you came from and how you transitioned from an entrepreneur and CEO to a sort of, the CBO or VP business development.
Mm-hmm. So basically, I'm an engineer by training. I went to 8200 in Israel in the military. I've been there quite a few years. And I got out of there and basically became an entrepreneur. Started my first company. It was a technical startup. I was founder CEO, but also the technology leader. And ran it for 7 years until it ran to the ground in the 2000.
Wow.
The 2000 crash.
7 years? You worked on it?
Yes.
Wow. What was that like? How hard was that?
Extremely hard. There were like 2 or 3. So I had 2 acquisition opportunities that didn't happen. One because of me, because of hubris, and the second because of luck. I had a signed MOU, basically a signed agreement that got rejected by the board for some reason, again, political stuff, not related to me. And 2 or 3 near-death experiences throughout these years. So it was a really rough road, but really interesting. I think this was my MBA, right? Basically, I got down from my, the pedestal of the hubris, and understood after a few years that it takes a lot of work, and it's not you. Of course, you have to work hard, but it's a lot about you need to be in the right place in the right time, and there is a huge element of luck in this road. So basically, the way I see the world of technology entrepreneurship is that you place a bet on something that will happen in a few years. It's not something that is everything that is totally visible right now, too late for you for a startup.
Right.
You have to make a bet, and this bet should be large enough, but on the other hand, not too large that everybody is chasing it right now, right?
Right.
So we have basically it has to be something outside, and now the world can either go that route or not go this route, and this is something that is totally out of your control. So whatever you do, you still have to work hard, but you need to, the world needs to go your way in a way, and at least I would say 70, 80%, and you can pivot and so on and so forth, but still, in order to really to succeed, something in the world has to be happening in your way.
Right, but then you continue to be in the CEO positions for multiple other companies before you transition.
Right. So I of course, basically I'm an entrepreneur in my heart. So even as a VP Biz Dev, I'm doing new businesses, right? I'm working on new opportunities. So the activity is very similar. It's basically creating new products and new business opportunities that are open for companies. I think the main difference for me was the fact that you're coming into a more mature company, and so just a little bit of less risk.
Right.
And but again, I've been CEO before. So in like 5 years ago, I was CEO 4.5 years ago. So it's not. I'm not ruling out going back to doing that. It's just a matter of it's opportunities. What comes your way, and then you get attached to something. You hop into the role.
Right.
So I've been after that. I went to after my first company. I actually said, okay, now I want to join to be a CEO of a company, not a founder. And so I joined the company early stage as CEO, and then I ran it for 5 years. Again, grew it from zero to millions of dollars again. And then at some point, it was sold. It wasn't a huge success, but it was sold to an OEM. And then I went to another CEO of another company in the vision, in the image analysis space, was CEO, got an acquisition offer that was finally rejected by the board, so I decided to move on. And then I got a call from Tango. So basically, it's all in the high tech space again, because in the early stage it's a high stakes, fast moving market. And usually in 3 years, 3-4 years, if this is going the right way, or you understand, where the world is going. You don't plan for 20 years, but if you plan your startup for 20 years from now, you won't survive anyway. So It's something that should happen in like 2-3 years. If it doesn't move in that direction,
I mean, we're saying 2-3 years, but it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. I mean, it's a lot of days. We're talking about 1,000 days where you're basically, you're scrambling to find product market fit, to even realize if this is something worth pursuing. That takes a lot of grit, a lot of resilience.
I agree. And again, it's and at some point, you realize what's going on. In my last CEO position, it was SleepRate, which was a sleep improvement service.
I need that.
Consumer health, really interesting stuff. There was a huge issue that consumers don't really want to treat their health, their sleep. They all complain about it, but they don't really treat it. And especially, they can get a pill for $1 and they knock themselves out. And it's much better than go through a plan that gives you, more holistic.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. So you fight this fight, and at some point you realize that does it work? Doesn't work? And what is the set of dice that you have in your hands to play? And
of course.
So I think this is so for me again. CEO is in the early stages. CEO is a product manager and a sales guy. And an engineering manager, basically, because you have to make very drastic decisions about a lot of things. As the company moves forward and grows, the CEO position becomes more of an operational role. More finances, more organizational structure, more cultural. all the time it's about culture. But again, early stage culture, the commando of early stage has to transition as the company grows into a more organized, structured, and it's a different type of management style. So as the companies become more mature, for somebody who's an entrepreneur in his heart, if you join this kind of a company, you need to be in a position that you can create. It's very creative, very dynamic
Of
environment,
course.
and that's what I'm looking for. So I don't know if this is my road map, between CEO and the BPBD. Very, very similar roles, actually.
Interesting. I didn't realize that they were so similar, but I have to say that your passion for the two roles and their junction just exudes through the screen. So I love it, and I'm getting so much inspiration from this. Tell me a little bit about the different VPBD roles that you've held, and what sort of earned secrets have you gained over these years, both at Tango, Magisto, now Moovit, incredible companies.
Right. So I think that the companies who are consumer oriented, very consumer oriented, have totally different BD requirements than companies that are B2B companies, and also, so by definition, BD compared to consumer growth. So if you have an arm of consumer growth, that means internet, playing with conversion funnels and playing with growth hacking. If this is the company's growth strategy, then BD becomes who are the right partners to add to that will increase growth, or it's not revenue usually. It's more like how do you grow faster? How do you grow better? Because the end goal is consumer growth. And I noticed that in those situations there is a very strong gap between the speed of BD and the speed of growth.
Okay.
BD by definition is a slower process. The partners are usually large because otherwise they cannot move the needle, right? So you look for partners that can move the needle for you, and they usually move slowly. Verizon, Samsung, those kind of guys. They're even though for them it's half a year is quick.
Right.
Now, when you try to do business development with these guys, you have now to compare it to the pivoting approach of an early stage startup.
Exactly.
So early stage startups pivot. So by the time you finish a deal, sometimes it's just totally irrelevant because the company took a spin to a different area. So there is a race condition between the business development flow, which is a little bit slower with big partners, and the path of the company.
So how do you manage that dissonance? Because you're coming into these companies, as large as they may be, they're still startups, sort of, right? Magisto, Moovit.
Right.
You're coming in and you're working on these incredible ideas, very creative, but very transformative with these huge companies. And by the time that you get this approved and you get everything off the ground, the CEO tells you, Uli, we actually are doing something else.
Right. So I think it's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's part of the role here. In general, I look at BD for a startup is a very disruptive process because the product managers are working on the app, again consumer facing, right? Working on the app, they have a roadmap, features, adding with features, building stuff like that, supporting the digital growth. And suddenly somebody comes to them and say, we need to do a demo to Samsung. Okay, so now you have to, they need to divert resources, and then when is it coming? I don't know, maybe in 6 months. And actually I'm going to give you 10 of those, and one of them would happen because 9, they don't happen.
Right.
So basically it's a disruptive process, but it's very important because you understand how the market, so there is a significant learning from those experiences because you understand what they are looking for, how they see the market, and it helps the product team, the engineering, management team of the companies to really take a look and see, okay, this is how the world looks at this problem. we are, as a startup, we're really focused on, driving something that we believe in. In reality, not necessarily lives with it. There's a distortion by definition, right? There's a distortion in the vision,
Right.
or the vision is disrupted to the world, and so, but you don't see the world in many cases because you're so, close view. And so I think one of the roles is the BD really brings in perspectives that are not existent otherwise.
Totally.
And sometimes it does help, even though so not every time there is a 90% pivot, right? Or sometimes it's like a 10% pivot, and then it helps. I mean, it grows. It helps the maturation of the business.
So what would you say are some of the top traits that a good VP of business development need to have in order to be successful, both at young companies but also late stage?
So I would say for technology companies,
yeah.
I think there is a need to have, it's a mix of technology understanding. You have to understand technology because if you're not a technologist and you come to do business, it's very hard because you need to close gaps between what you have in the technology and what they look for. So this gap is a technology gap in some cases that you need to understand. Otherwise, you just sell, some Luftgeschäft, something that is not realistic. So you have to have technology understanding. Second is that you need to be to understand business models.
Right.
There are so many. I mean, the world now is so complicated in terms of different ways to make money and to get success. So there is that part of the understanding. So, and the last one is really creativity and flexibility. Basically, you have to be a listener, right? Because you need to understand what is the partner looking for in what you have. And this is something that sometimes is subtle. Sometimes they don't really understand exactly what it means. So you have to make this translation of what you have to what they need. And this is it has a lot of, usually it's very creative, very, you have to be listening very, very hard to what problem they're trying to solve.
Right.
And then there is the internal sales, which is a huge challenge as well. You have to sell not only to the partner, you have to come in and convince the internal group whether, that it makes sense to actually go after this opportunity because again, it's disruptive to the normal flow of business. So it's a tough position, but I think it's very dynamic, very people's oriented. So it combines technology, business, market and insights, product. So it's actually encompassing a lot of disciplines. So very fun.
Right. So one of the key questions that I come across when I think of business development is looking at myself as a young entrepreneur. I'm going to start my own venture. How do I know when I need to start, having somebody else on the team that has this, entrepreneurial mindset and corporate understanding to know when to do this business development? So at what point do I say, okay, the company is now on a certain mission and I need this external factor or this X factor within my company to go and think about these new corporate developments?
I think that the real, so I would see two scenarios. One, you've hit product market fit, and now you're into growth,
right,
and into driving stuff. That's a good time to make this addition,
right?
Because then you need to grow. You need to have partners to push. You also understand what kind of partners you're looking in many cases,
right?
As opposed to before that you're just running around to try to understand what is the product that you're selling. In some cases, in some cases, when you bring somebody like that too early, and could happen, then basically, if you are very strong in your vision, then it would be a disruption. It wouldn't work.
Right.
And if you are open and you say, okay, let's take this kind of a talent as one of the ways to test the market and to reach product market fit. If this is what you're looking for, then you can do it really early. but it really depends on how you are, basically what your preference is in terms of do you want to run the business? You know exactly what you want. It's more of a CEO trait.
Right.
If the CEO says, I know, I have a vision, I know where I'm going. Don't disrupt me. Don't give me other. Don't give me too much noise.
Totally.
I need to be focused. At that point, don't bring anybody else because it will be disruptive. It will be annoying and noisy by definition. The minute either again. So I think I gave you
100%. It sounds complicated. It sounds like it's an art, and that there's no right answer. It sounds like you have it. To each his own. And even once you employ a certain strategy, you don't know what the other outcome would have been. But it takes a lot of understanding and a lot of open-mindedness to go along that route. And definitely the one takeaway that I'm taking from this is this idea that you have to find a balance at the end about everything. You have to be focused on your mission. You have to be open-minded to different developments, because it's not just about your growth, but it's about the missed opportunities that you might have in the market. If you're a disruptor in the market and you have others that are around the same time as you, there's a cake, and you want a good slice of that cake with the best partners. So Uli, thank you for all that inspiration. I have one last question, because 20 minutes are almost up, and I can't believe it every single time. What are 3 words that you would use to describe yourself?
I would say creative, honest.
Yeah. Creative, honest,
and energetic.
I love it. It sounds like that's pretty much what you need to be a good vice president of business development. Uli, best of luck at Moovit. I love following everything that you're doing. It's so impressive and so inspiring. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Take care.